No, she's gonna. Oh, here we go.
Dude, this scares me. It's so creepy. Okay. Hi guys, Caitlin, Kaemmer here. I am going to be running the call tonight. I have not entirely prepared for this, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. I kind of wanted to open this up. We have a few more people jump on. If not, that's okay. But I kind of wanted to open it up a little bit to some questions and stuff too, if anybody had any, because I feel like now is the time to speak up when it comes to things that we are a little uncomfortable with. And I think invites is typically one of the big ones with that. And it's kind of funny, you know, it's such a huge part of our business building activities. It is like that one thing that like really, like you got to be doing it. You have to be doing it. But it also happens to be, at least to me, when I first was starting out, and even more so after that too, it was the most intimidating part of the whole thing, because it's like, you know, you're really putting yourself out there. And I don't know, so hopefully this call tonight will clear up a few things. I was going to go over a few things that I do versus a few things I don't. And then I've got a couple like perspective mindset thoughts to help, hopefully help you to take some of the pressure off of this. So first of all, if you have any sort of, I don't know, just hesitations or worries or concerns or anything that you think of negatively when it comes to invites, if you want to put them in the chat, go for it. I figured we can kind of, if somebody has anything specific, we can touch on that specifically, just to help you all out while we're on here. As far as this whole inviting thing, I think first and foremost, we all have experienced that thing where somebody comes into our messages and they don't know you from Adam, you don't know who they are, and they just say, hey, you look like a really like cool person, like I really like your feed, you should come work on my team. Or it's like, hey, like, do you want to buy this or that? And it's like super salesy, it's super cringy, it like immediately turns you off, because it's like, well, this person, I mean, they don't even know who I am. So it's a complete and utter turnoff. And I think we've probably all experienced that. We don't want to do any of that. I think the thing to look at this as is that, I mean, obviously you should be diligently sharing your story, talking about what you're doing, talking about all the things, so people know what you're about. All you're doing when it comes to these invites, if you have any kind of hesitations when it comes to reaching out to people directly, is that you are sharing an opportunity that's working for you. And you see somebody that there's some aspect of their life that it may work for them. And that is it. You're not selling anything. You're not pushing anything. You're not doing any of that shit. All you're doing is saying, hey, I love this. My whole life has changed completely, or, you know, X has changed completely for me, you know, whatever it is to like connect with that person. And that's it. Pressure removed. Like, don't overthink it. And, you know, when it comes to, because we talk about how, again, you know, invites, I think a part of a reason why we get so intimidated about it. Yes, we're putting ourselves out there, but the root of it is that we're putting ourselves out there and we may face rejection. Or in this case, you are absolutely going to face rejection. It is just the nature of the business. And I get that. Nobody wants to feel that. It's not a fun feeling. However, I don't even want to say like sometimes when they say no, it doesn't mean like no right now, not right now. Because sometimes like, yes, like sometimes with people, you know, it's just not the right time, or they've got crazy stuff going on, or they're doing something right now that works for them. Maybe later they'll keep watching, whatever it may be. All that aside, sometimes no just legit means no. And it's okay. Like, raise your hand. I mean, who here loves the color red? Okay, Mindy's con cracks. So yeah, I hate red. But why? Why would I be offended by that? That they like the color red, and I just think of like blood. I wouldn't be offended by it. It doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't change anything about the way I think about me or the way I think about them. It would be your favorite color. I just see like red rum. Remember that from way back when? Anyway, we're getting off topic here. That is how you should think about your invites. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because the fact that you're inviting this person, the fact that you're sharing this, it has zero zip to do with you. Whether they say yes, whether they say no, whether they say no, not right now, it is their decision. And, you know, that we live in a country where free will is a thing. And I am a firm believer, while yes, like we all, as Corey and I were talking about earlier, like she said, we bleed blue, like we all love Beachbody. We all love to do this. We feel great about it. What works for us isn't necessarily going to work for other people. And they're allowed to make that decision for themselves. So it literally has nothing to do with you. Nothing, like at all. So hopefully that helps a little bit with perspective and takes a little bit of the pressure off. When it comes to reaching out to people, you guys, it's like, it is just not necessarily a big deal. And the reason it is so important to reach out to these people is because, to me, the way that I look at invites, I really look at them as an icebreaker of sorts. For me, it's going to be a bug in someone's ear to say, hey, you know, I think some of us have heard that like analogy where like there's the pool party going on in your backyard. And like if somebody's like driving by and they see the pool party, they're going to probably not think anything of it. Or if they drive by and they see a sign in your yard, like, hey, we're having a pool party, they're not going to think anything of it. But like if that person receives a message or a text or a call or whatever, inviting them to the pool party, they're probably going to stop by. That is all that this is just you saying, hey, if you're interested at any point in time, you're invited to the party. I'm here to help you if you want it. That is the way that I look at invites, you guys. And sometimes, you know, like I will legitimately invite somebody, like, which I'll get into this a little bit later, but you know, somebody who is engaging with posts or somebody who's engaging with stories, like I am going to, especially if it's something where I'm specifically talking about a group going on or something like that, I am going to just straight up invite them. You know, like, do you want to join us girls in our wellness group? But sometimes my invites are legitimately just an icebreaker. And this isn't necessarily going to be with Facebook. Facebook is a little bit, I don't know, people are a little bit judgier on Facebook, and like the friend thing has like a different vibe to it. But like when it comes to followers on Instagram, like people who are following along with you, I might send them a message and just say, you know, hey, so-and-so, thank you so much for being here and following along with me. Are you interested in health and wellness too? Or maybe something else brought you here? Like, I swear, some people follow me just for my hair. All it is just to create conversation. And I consider that an invite because it's starting conversation. And if they respond, if they don't respond, I mean, they're not our people. We're not going to talk to them anyway. But I mean, if they are responding, you know, it's starting conversation, which leads to connection, which leads to building relationships, which leads to, if they need help at some point in the future, they know a person, they know you. So that is so important too. And I think, I don't know, I just think we put so much pressure on this whole thing, and it doesn't need to be that way. And honestly, like I would say 70% of the invites I send nowadays are just icebreaker conversations. I mean, I am sending invites off of people who do engage in my posts or engage in my stories, or I occasionally will get somebody that votes on a poll, something like that. But most of the time it's just me reaching out and just building relationships with people. You can call that an invite, because at the end of the day, yes, we need to be inviting people, but we're also here to build relationships, because that building relationships and creating connection is the most important, to me, it's the most important part about this whole business. I mean, we all, even all of us, you know, like our relationship, we all like have this connection. Like that is, like our community is so important. So to me, it's the same thing with invites, because the right person that you connect with, it doesn't matter how you word an invite to them. If they're ready to do it, then they're going to say yes at whatever point that they're ready. Whereas the wrong person that you don't connect with, like they're not going to say no regardless, because you guys just aren't each other's people. So keep that in mind. Like it's easy when you start building the relationships. So I was kind of making a list of like do's and don'ts, and then they kind of got redundant. So I'm just going to talk. When it comes to inviting people, some of this may be a little bit not trivial, but more for beginners. I was trying to like kind of go across the board because we have so many people starting at different areas. When it comes to these invites, first of all, no cold call invites. Don't be inviting people that you don't know from Adam, that don't know you. The exception to that rule being if you're going to reach out to somebody for the first time, like on Instagram with your followers, to just introduce yourself, say hi, that kind of thing. Like that is fine. But when it comes to like a legit, hey, you want to join us girls in our wellness group? If you haven't talked to them at all, I highly recommend you don't do that because it's probably going to turn somebody off, because at the end of the day, they're going to feel like you're not really there to help them. You're just there to like try and get them to join your wellness group. When it comes to these invites too, the only timeline that's going to matter with this, you guys, is the person you're speaking to. And I am a firm believer in that. If you were talking to someone and they're saying now is not the right time, maybe I'll try it next month or whenever it may be, you need to honor that. The exception to that rule would be I do have people that I will consistently invite. Like I have some people that they just want me to invite them once a month, and we chat and we see if they're ready. If they're not, like some of those people, or if it's somebody you know really well that you have that kind of relationship, that gets a little gray where you can be like, hey, like we've been going round and round with this, like why don't you just pull this over? But when it comes to somebody that you don't really know that well, or somebody that you're just newly talking to, you need to honor their timeline. And I think if you come at this from, I think when we don't honor that other person's timeline, we are coming from a place where we are serving ourselves versus them. And especially if you're coming at it from like I really want to hit Success Club this month, or I really want to start, just get on the board with Success Club, or, whatever goals you have in mind. If you come across like you're trying to just get them into a group and get them in now, they're going to question your motives, and they aren't going to feel as confident in putting their trust in you to help them. Also no, which I doubt any of us do this, but no like salesy promises. Like I've had some people reach out to me in messages and just say, hey, like, do you want to lose weight really fast? Like I've lost like X amount of weight. There was somebody the other day that she supposedly, I'm sure she has, but I mean, she's lost like 85 pounds in 3 months, and she's like doing keto and doing all the things. And she's like, hey, like, do you want to lose weight really fast? You should try this. Like I would never say that to anybody. When we are sending messages, also no, you can use a script, but it does need to be personalized to that person. No one's going to want to get a message from you that feels like you could have just like copy and pasted and sent that to the same person. Make sure you're using their name. Make sure that you are including some kind of conversational point in your invite, like how was their day, or maybe they posted a picture of their new puppy and like you want to squeeze the puppy. I don't know, whatever it may be. I always make sure to include something like that within the message itself. Also, when it comes to invites, you need to be inviting to something specific. And I know a lot of our groups, it's just like an ongoing wellness group. We do have a couple like program specific groups. Like I know like we'll have Amala's coming up, like the 645. I mean, I haven't talked with Corey or Mindy at all yet, but like I would really love to create some hype around that, kind of like we did for 9 Week Control Freak, and just make it stupid huge. Because I can see potential for us to do that, since he's no longer, like his first program was kind of like newer and we weren't sure, and now we know what he's about, and it's like, yeah, let's do this. So you need to be inviting to something specific, and yes, like there has to be some sort of a deadline. So even, with the wellness groups, or, there's talk in the future of us doing like additional 30 strong groups, because the first one is just such a monumental success so far. You have to have not necessarily that there needs to be urgency to it, just not like again, it's like back to the pool party thing, you know, like, hey, do you want to come over and swim in my pool? Versus like, hey, like I have a pool party going on Saturday at 2:00. You can bring a snack if you want, whatever the heck. Like, it gives people an idea of what exactly is going on. And so even with the wellness groups, like we typically, I don't know, I usually do it like 2 waves, you know, like June 1st and June 15th. It's like, hey, you know, when it comes to the invite, you can just say, hey, so-and-so, like, I don't know if this is on your radar at all, but I see you've been watching my stories. I have another wave of girls starting in our ongoing wellness group on June 15th. I still have a few spots available. Do you have any interest in getting info? And I typically do say, do you have any interest in getting info versus do you have interest in joining in with us? Because people are a lot more likely to respond if it's a yes or no to an info. And if they're going to say no, they're more comfortable to respond no to getting info versus no, I don't want to join. So that needs to be a thing. And it doesn't, you know, you don't actually have to do the waves. It doesn't have to be like that. It just needs to be, they just have to have a concrete idea of what is going on. So, again, I invite people who are watching my stories. I invite people who are liking my posts. I do icebreaker invites to people just to start conversation that are following me on Instagram. I do not typically reach out to anybody I don't have any kind of contact with on Facebook. Because again, that friend thing, I don't know, people are leery on Facebook. At least my people are kind of leery. So I typically don't do that. Now, if you know them from way back when, that's a different story. But if it's somebody you just don't really know, I think that you need to tread lightly there. I also, as far as inviting people, once I have invited them, I do typically send a follow-up message to them no later than 3 days after I've invited them. And I do that regardless. That message is going to look a little bit different depending on the initial invite. If it's somebody I'm sending that icebreaker, just starting conversation invite to, it's probably going to be something along the lines of, hey, I just hope you have a really great day today. And then I may go, if I have the capabilities to see their Instagram, I'll go and I'll like some of their posts and like watch stories if they have it. Now, if that person doesn't respond after those 2 messages, and it's the first time I've ever reached out to them, I don't follow up with them again. Unless they come to me, I'm kind of done there. Because I figure if you have somebody who doesn't respond to 2 nice messages in a row, like, okay, maybe you're just not my people, or you just don't want anything to do with me and you're following me to just watch, whatever. They're certainly not going to have a conversation about a wellness group if they're not going to have a conversation about the weather. So keep that in mind with priorities when it comes to follow-up. Now, when it comes to somebody that I have done like a hard invite to, like let's say they watched or they liked the post and I invited them based off that post because the post was about joining the wellness group. And I said, hey, do you want to join us girls or do you want to get some info with them? I'm probably going to send something along the lines of, hey, don't know if you saw my last message or not. Zero pressure on that. If it's not for you, I think that, you know, X, Y, and Z, why you think that it would be fun for them. Hope they have a great day, something along those lines. And I kind of send the same type of invite as well for somebody that is a repeat person with invites, you know, something along the lines of like, again, no pressure here. Hope you have a great day. Short and sweet, to the point, and then I just move on. Now with people that it's my first time sending them an invite ever, and then I send them that second follow-up and they don't respond, I again do not follow up with them after that unless they come to me or I see them continuing. We all have those people that like we invite repeatedly and they ignore all of your messages and then they still watch all your stuff. Like, yeah, I'll talk to them or I'll continue to reach out to them. But when it comes to like my people that I have been in communication with in the past, maybe we've had more of a serious conversation about the wellness group and it just wasn't the right time, I invite them, I don't hear back from them, I put them on a follow-up schedule again, where I will probably engage in their content maybe once or twice throughout that following month. And then I'll be in their inbox sending them a message just to chat or whatever it may be about something I saw on their, we're supposed to be social on here. So something I saw that they posted or just to catch up, I'll do that usually, I don't know, 3 weeks to a month is typically how I do things. And another thing too, when it comes to these invites, you guys, if they say yes, I think it's really easy to get super excited and start to word vomit all the amazing things that we have to offer. Don't just zip it. Like literally, like if you need to like close down your phone or your computer, do it and just take a deep breath and then come back, ask them questions. If they say they want info, I always ask them questions first. And it could be something along the lines of, what goals do they have? What is their timeline for reaching those goals? Because it is much nicer to know on the front end if they are wanting something unrealistic before they enroll versus after, and then they're pissed at you because they haven't lost, 30 pounds in a month. And I am saying that from experience. So it's good to know those things up front. Also, if there's anything they're currently doing, that's another good question to ask. Is there anything they're possibly struggling with? They don't come out and just say, hey, what are you struggling with? Because people can be sensitive about that. I mean, obviously we are talking to people because they have pain points typically. They're not coming to you because everything's all like butterflies and rainbows and they feel great about life. So I handle with care because I think that it's important to be considerate of whatever they have going on. So I'll ask them, is there anything potentially they're struggling with? And then we'll kind of go from there. I think too, that is also another good way. If somebody is not serious about this, if they're just saying, yes, they want info just to be polite, and you come at them with questions, it's just another way to determine whether or not that person is serious about moving forward. And more importantly, at this stage of the game, worth you investing more of your time and energy into, because there is nothing worse than giving somebody all the information and then not taking time to, again, I'm saying this from experience, not taking the time to figure out what exactly it is that they need. And then you're so off base because you haven't figured out what their needs are. You're saying a bunch of crap that they just don't care about. And then it's like, okay, well, that was a lot of effort that I could have avoided by talking to them about the things that they really needed help with. So that is kind of what I have as far as what goes through my head when it comes to invites. When it comes to hesitation, people thinking I'm selling them. What would they think? Yes. No, and rejecting all those things. Yes. Okay. So yes, I think when it comes to, like Corey had mentioned, things which I felt all those too, like people thinking that you're selling to them, what will they think? Will they say, what if they say no and reject me? All those things. I know for me that those were all huge too when I first started. I do think that when it comes to invites, you guys, while yes, hopefully this call is bringing the pressure off a little bit when it comes to the mindset to have when you are sending invites, it is a muscle that you do have to strengthen. Like just like confidence, mindset, physical strength. I do think the more that you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. I know, and we'll give you guys like examples of invites that we send out. And those are helpful. I know for me, when I first started, those were helpful just to kind of have an idea of wording. But I promise you, you keep showing up and you keep leading with your heart and being genuine and coming from a place of serving. You're there to serve others and everything that, and really when you think of it from that perspective, like you're there to serve others, like all of, if we want to get real cut and dry, like any of the feelings we have about it don't matter. Like we're just there to send out the invite and move on. And for the longest time, I sent my invites out at night. I know, like it's like, oh, swallow the frog, do the hardest thing first. I was always like really worried about the rejection, and like I would overthink it and like be looking back to see if they responded. So I would send like my 3 to 5 invites at night, and then I'd go to bed. And then I didn't have to worry about it till the next day. So whatever you have to do to kind of like, I do think it's something that you just kind of have to get in and do it messy. And then I promise you, if you keep doing it and you keep showing up and you keep tweaking and you start building these relationships, all of a sudden you're going to like go to send an invite one day and you have the words. You don't have to rely on a script. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. And you're using your own language and you have like your own flair to it. And it's like, oh, like I can do the damn thing. Okay, this isn't really that big of a deal anymore. I promise you, it does get to that point where it's like the invites are just like any other part of this. It's like, okay, let me just check that off the list. So does anybody have any questions or any, I mean, we have what, like a little bit more than 5 minutes left. If anybody has questions about anything they're experiencing with invites, or I mean, really anything in general at all, I'm happy to answer if anyone has anything. Don't all say anything at once.
So what if you send an invite and somebody's like, it's just not a good time. How much is it? What do you respond? If like they automatically ask, how much is it?
So I typically am going to respond with price. The pricing is going to vary depending on what they would want to go with. Because we do have, and depending on what it is they're looking for, because, some people like are just interested in doing like a refresh or, obviously like the total package with the bod membership and then the nutrition to me is the one I feel the best about, whatever version of that they want, because I don't think you can have one without the other unless they have something currently going for them that they're just crushing. Like if somebody is like set with nutrition, like doing Weight Watchers or whatever it is, and they feel really good, I'm like, okay, well then that's a different story. But so I'll tell them, yeah, like pricing, it's going to depend on what they want. I do typically tell them that typically, somebody is enrolling anywhere from like $160 to $200. I do because I think I used to not pull out price at all, but like, I don't know. It just leads to more conversation that you could just wrap up right then and there for them. So that's typically it. And then I would also, if it's somebody who's saying, now is not the right time, or, what's the price? I'll end that with, would you like me to follow up at a later time? I don't want to blow you up on here. I say this a lot to people. I don't want to blow you up, but I also don't want you to think I'm forgetting about you. Let me know what works best for you. Maybe.
That was a great question, though.
It was a great question.
I had it happen to me. I word vomited, and I know I did, but I mean, I know the girl, so, and it was not really one of my first ones, so I'm not all that, concerned, I guess, at this minute. But I mean, it's potential, but I'm still like, did I say too much? Should I not have included any pricing? So I was just curious what normally happens.
I personally feel like it's harder to talk to people that I know really well about this than it is to talk to people I don't know. I think it's easy to say a lot. Mm-hmm. So I do think there's an added element there that makes it a little tricky.
That makes sense. I can see that. I'm like, I haven't talked to these people in a while, but I mean, we used to be friends. Hey, how's it going?
I know. You'll have people, some of my best clients are people that I haven't talked to in years that went to college with me. I mean, shoot, look at like Corey and I, we went to college together. We didn't speak forever. And now, obviously things are quite different. So it's fun when it all comes full circle. So.
Do you mind sharing where you're getting your invites, maybe just to shed some light for those? Like, are you pulling them from any posts that people are engaging? Are you pulling them from stories? Obviously, you're inviting people who are commenting or engaging on a call to action, which is also known as a CTA post.
Yeah.
But like, where are you typically, like, what's your go-to invite?
So I do things a little bit different in that if I have somebody who's watched like all of my stories, who's kind of watching me like a hawk, I will for sure follow up with or invite them. specifically like invite them to a wellness group, especially like, or, I will specifically be inviting people to coaching calls if they watch all my coaching stories that I'll do later this week, because I'll be breadcrumbing that in as we lead up to this call. I also, if somebody just watches like 3 or 4 of my stories, I also reach out to them purely just to create relationship. It's nothing crazy. I just send that, whatever message introducing myself, thanking them for watching my stories. I will do that too. When it comes to call to action posts, I don't get tons of traction with those. I do when I try to, with my call to action posts, I will put up like before and after photos, something that, or like a really good picture, something that people are going to comment on regardless, even if they just look at the picture and then move on. I will reach out to them and invite them. But it just depends. I honestly don't do a ton of hard invites anymore. The majority of my invites are more conversational in nature. And then, which I do think when I first started doing this, it took some time to kind of like get that ball rolling, because you end up spending more time with these people before they'd actually come into a wellness group. However, you get to know them better. You have a stronger relationship. And then at this point in time, it's all kind of caught up. So like I will start a conversation with somebody, and if you are consistently sharing all of your stuff and they know exactly what you're about, it typically is going to come up in conversation. Like I have people that I'll just ask them how their day is going, and they'll start talking to me about something with health and wellness just because they know that I do that kind of stuff. So that is typically what I do. I don't know. I bet I do maybe 5 to 10 posts or invites tops each week for hard wellness group or coaching business invites. But those are usually like really good ones that like, I really know that person, we've talked, they're pretty specific. So otherwise it's basically just conversational stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think that's super important to realize, because I think so often when we read invite or we hear invite that we automatically think it's like, oh, my wellness group is starting on this day, and would you like in, or would you like more info? And it used to be kind of like that, but so much more now. It's about creating that conversation, right? Just building that relationship and seeing if they're even somebody you want to work with, because we want to bring in people that we want to work with and that are our people just as much as they want to trust and like and connect with us, right? So the only way that we make that happen is by starting that conversation and either building a friendship or knowing that like, hey, I wish you the best of luck, I will love and support you, but like I'm moving on type of a thing. But I think it's so important to remember that, because that helps take the pressure off too, when you're not like, oh, 100%. I have to like take this hard invite. It's just so much more about starting that conversation. Or what brought you to my page? Can you share with me a little bit more about what you enjoy seeing? Maybe I can share a little bit more on that, or, different things like that to start that conversation for sure.
Well, and I honestly, the way that a lot of my conversational invites go, you guys, so I used to post a lot. I would do call to action posts, and I would do posts like talking about my family and stuff, or like hobbies. And then I would do a lot of posts that were more like motivational in nature, in the sense that like, here's part of my story, here's what I've done, hey, you can do this too. That used to be all that I would post. I have definitely made a little bit of a shift in that. I certainly do some of those posts, but the majority of my posts have value of some sort in them. Like I tip, whether it is a mindset thing or a food thing, or something with exercise, something within my niche of like who it is that I'm specifically marketing to and who I'm trying to connect with, which is typically, for me, it's women, moms, sometimes not moms, and they're usually like between the ages of like 25 and 35, and like all those life experiences that go with it. Those are the people I'm trying to connect with, and those are the people I'm trying to help. So when it comes to my conversational invites, typically something comes up, or like if somebody, for example, like comments on a value post, because I do at least one of those a day, if not 2 or more. You know, they may say like, I really liked that post about this. And I'll just let them know, like, honestly, like that, I'm so glad that, that's why I'm doing it. I bring so much we have so much of that content and so much of that value in our wellness groups, but I don't want it to be where you have to be in my wellness group to get some of that value. So I try to bring some of it here too. I tell you what, that really opens up that they're like, oh, so I can get more of this if I'm in your wellness group. It creates that kind of mystery there, and it gives them that idea of like, okay, so I'm just getting this off of your Instagram, off of your social media. Like, what else could I get if I join the wellness group? So a lot of my conversations go like that. And I have a lot of people who eventually are ready to enroll because of that, because they're there. It's not like one of those things where we're just going to get them set up and then we're just going to leave them. Like we're there to support them. And like, like Corey shared, in her stories earlier, like, everybody posting in the 30 strong group, like people want to know that you aren't just going to sign them up and ghost them. So that is probably the biggest thing I have off of invites right now, and invites, and then people who legitimately enroll.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
I had somebody like send me a message off, so like they commented on my story of one of my book pages that I posted. How long do I wait until I send an invite or like try to spark some type of conversation regarding health and wellness?
I mean, have you reached out to them? So have you messaged back from that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, honestly, I don't think there's really a specific timeline. I think, there's so much jargon out there where like I have listened to calls where they're like, if you're questioning whether or not you should invite them, like go ahead and invite them. And then I've listened to some where it's like, just continue building that relationship. With somebody like that, who is like, if somebody comments on something that I share in my stories, because I mean, obviously stories are kind of a free for all in what we share. Like if I have somebody comment on my horses or something that has nothing to do with health and wellness, and we're just talking about that, I will probably just continue to build a relationship with them. And then, we'll talk about each other's day. When they, like, if somebody asks how my day is going, I talk about coaching. I talk about, like leading up to the 30 strong group, I was ready to pull my hair out because I had so much going on. And I'm like, man, it's been crazy lately. We had this whole group starting, and for those first few days, getting used to all the extra check-ins, like I will mention that to them. And that's kind of like breadcrumbing in there. I'm not necessarily going to, I have done invites off of people who have commented on things that have nothing to do with the health and wellness, and it typically doesn't go anywhere. Now you can put that, like what I mentioned earlier, you can put that bug in their ear. But it's something I'm going to feel out on a base, like on a person by person basis. Like if they're your people and you hit it out of the park and you guys are like super chatty, like I have people that Katie, if she listens to this, it'll be fun. Like Katie Bowen, for example, like she and I started talking about like really random stuff, but she was totally my people. I'm like, dude, like this is like my best friend and I don't even know her. And so like one time with her, I'm like, dude, I just need your energy in our wellness group. Like you are seriously fire. Like you need to be doing this with me one day. Super random. And then just left it at that. I mean, she's a coach now. So it just depends.
Thanks.
Welcome.
I think too, with something like that, because it was like personal development that they commented on, you can start building that relationship by telling them what you're reading, or ask them if they've ever like read personal development or listened to personal development. And you can start building that conversation around what you've read or what they've read or listened to, and maybe recommend just providing value, sharing podcasts that you love, or a book that you're going to dive into, or what you've really taken away from that book. Or you can just kind of grow off of something like that, because that is something that we do in our wellness groups, but I don't know that I would just automatically shift to an invite, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions, comments? No, that was a really good call. Good conversation, good tips for sure. Taking the pressure off and just really focusing on building that connection. So I love that. All right, girls, I will get the recording up so that you can listen to the playback, and whoever missed can as well. We appreciate you being on the call tonight, and we'll see you later.